and welcome to another edition of Between the T's, the knowledge sharing program from Texas Bank and Trust. I'm your host, Karen Partee. Today's segment is sponsored by the Texas Bank and Trust Fraud Protection Center. Stay one step ahead of cyber criminals by being informed about online scams and common threats with tips from this online resource. The TB&T Fraud Protection Center, located at TB&T online at www.texasbankandtrust.com. Today, we want to take a deeper look at cybersecurity, with our world being driven by technology, from the way we shop to the games we play, from our desire to remain connected through social media, even to our need to manage our finances online. Being digitally connected may leave us vulnerable to having our personal information compromised and fall into the wrong hands. So today we want to look at some practical tips on how to safeguard that personal financial information while we're online, whether we're at home, at work, or on the go. And to ensure that, we have a new session called Don't Get Caught in a Cyber Plot. To help us break down this important topic, joining us today, we have Texas Bank and Trust Vice President and TB&T My Way Service Center Manager, Mr. Chris Davis. Welcome, Chris. It's great to have you back on the program.
Well, thank you for having me, and I'm happy to be here.
Good. Well, we want to discuss the theme, Don't Get Caught in a Cyber Plot. And plot is actually an acronym, I believe, for the 4 primary areas of personal vulnerability online. Can you explain that a little bit further?
Yeah, so really what plot stands for is weak passwords, links, open Wi-Fi, and then targeted attacks. So those are the most common areas that we can see us being more vulnerable to cyber criminals and hackers if we don't prepare or equip ourselves to avoid certain things in those areas.
Okay, so let's start with that first theme there of strong passwords. You know, passwords are kind of running our lives today. We have them from everything to logging into our phone to even getting to our online banking accounts. So tell us, what are the dangers of having a weak password?
Really, with the weak password, we're subjecting ourselves to the cyber criminal or the hacker to have full access to any and all things that we use that password for.
Right.
And so the stronger our password, the less likely we are to be compromised.
Well, I know it's convenient, if you will, to use the same password for multiple logins just because we have so many. But I know as someone who is looking over, you know, online banking security for customers, you don't recommend that. So
Not at all, because once my password is compromised, the likelihood of the hacker trying to use that same password on other sites is very high.
Right.
And one thing that people don't commonly think of, if I've got a password on my financial information, I most likely have the same password for social media and my email, and so those are the 2 most common things that get hacked.
Okay.
Naturally, the hacker's going to go after my financial information next. And with the financial password, once that's compromised, you know, there's a lot of vulnerabilities and threats there that leave us subject to money movement and things of that nature. But something that a lot of people don't think about is social media passwords being compromised. A lot of damage can be done on social media with our reputation. So if we don't have a strong password there, again, the hacker is a playground for them to do things that we most commonly don't think about or would want them to do with our reputation.
So what are then some common mistakes that we make when we're creating passwords?
A lot of times we use personal information.
Okay.
You know, children's name, pet's name, favorite color,
Birth dates,
vacation destinations, and really social media, again, it's a playground for the hacker to find that information and then attempt to use that to their advantage against us, because again, it's easy for us to remember, so naturally we want to gravitate towards using something like that, and it's just not a good practice to do.
Okay, so then what do you suggest? How can we create a stronger password?
Really, it shouldn't be so complicated that you can't remember the password, and sometimes that's the thing that we go after, is it's got to be super complicated, but then we can't remember it, so it really serves us no benefit. But mixing in upper and lowercase characters, special characters, numbers, a lot of times maybe you have an A in your password, so replace that with the @ symbol. Or maybe the letter S could be replaced with the number 5 or a $sign. And so just kind of getting a little bit creative, but not so creative, again, that you complicate the password to the point you just don't remember it.
Do you have any advice, though, because as I said, we have multiple passwords to keep up with. How do you keep track of those without writing them down in an obvious place? Are there any suggestions for that?
You definitely use things that trigger your mind, that you, again, aren't using something so personal that someone could guess that, but keeping up maybe a sequence of passwords that are easy to remember those sequences, and using a combination of maybe some passwords the numbers are at the end, and on another the numbers are at the beginning. So using a similar password, but again differentiating them enough that you still have the opportunity to remember what you're using.
Okay. Well, let's move on to links then, because I know getting a lot of emails on a daily basis, we are cautioned by some of our online security professionals that you don't open links inside of emails, even if it's from someone I might know.
Right. Well, going back to what we talked about earlier with passwords, email, that is a vulnerability, and if your email is compromised and I didn't know that and you sent me an email and I knew you, thought, oh, well, I can trust Karen's email.
Right.
However, it was a hacker really posing as you that embedded that malicious link in that email. Again, I've opened myself up to that vulnerability. So best practice is, if you're not aware of the sender, definitely don't open the email or the attachments or the link. But if you do know the sender but aren't expecting that, then just pick up the phone and call and make sure that it was something that they intentionally sent to you.
Would there ever be a link that would be considered safe to open in an email?
Potentially, but again, that's something that unfortunately today we can't always guarantee. One good practice though is, if you think it is legitimate, you could always just highlight that link and then copy and paste it into your web browser. Because really where you're most vulnerable with clicking on a link is you're activating that script. So there's an executable file embedded in that link that's going to cause that malware to download on your computer. But if you're copying and pasting the link into your web browser, you're going to see the nature of where that link is intended to take you without actually activating the script on the link itself. So.
Okay. Well, let's then address open Wi-Fi, because I know with us always being on the go, we still need to be connected, and they're making it more convenient. And hotels, restaurants, even our favorite coffee shops provide the open Wi-Fi networks. But again, there's some caution about whether or not we should use them. What is that concern?
With open Wi-Fi, the dangers there, again, it's a playground for the hackers to be in, simply because there's no controls on the security of that open Wi-Fi network. Really no controls, I guess, for me as the user attaching to that network. And so anything and everyone that's on there, a hacker has full access to see that, and they can watch and monitor your traffic of where you're going, the sites that you're frequenting, and things of that nature. And again, if that network has been compromised, then I'm subject to any vulnerabilities on that network, like malware, viruses, and things of that nature as well. So best practice, especially for financial information, is don't ever access your online banking, your credit card information from an open Wi-Fi source. And if it's a last resort and you just have to get on there, just be cautious of what you're doing and where you're going and the sites that you're visiting, and hopefully have some form of protection on your computer and everything like that as well. Do
you have specific tips on how I can keep my information secure online?
The best way is utilize, a strong antivirus program, which antivirus doesn't always protect you fully to the full degree and extent. So having maybe a secure browser product. At Texas Bank and Trust, we offer our customers a solution called Trusteer Report. What Trusteer does is it provides a safe way to navigate and view and browse certain websites by protecting my login information and avoiding that malware from attaching or attacking my computer in that fashion to where I've then become compromised. Okay.
Well, let's move into the last point here in our cyber plot, and that is targeted attacks. So, if I were to utilize an open Wi-Fi network, am I now vulnerable to an attack, or how do I know if I'm going to be vulnerable to a targeted attack?
Well, your chances are definitely increased, because with a targeted attack, what the hacker or cyber criminal is looking to do is really kind of build an attack towards what they see you doing. So if you're frequent in a lot of shopping sites, they might present you an email with a coupon or a discount to a certain site. But really, once you've clicked on that link for the coupon or discount, you've now ran that script that's downloading the malware on your computer. And so again, with open Wi-Fi, the hacker has full access to see and browse what you're doing, so they can build an attack against you, really customized to what they think that you might click on, simply based on your habits of how you're viewing and navigating through the web. And with the targeted attack, they're very specific. We see a lot of times in businesses more frequently that you might get an email from the president to a CEO or CFO of a company stating, emergency, I need this wire to go out right away. This has urgency. So a lot of times the cyber criminal will put urgency in that email. They may change the greeting to an extent where it's not something commonly used amongst your peers. So they'll try to make it more formal, to make it sound professional, but then a lot of times you'll see a lot of misspellings as well. And on top of that, when you're looking at the email address, they could very quickly spoof an email to where it looks like it's coming from the legitimate site, but it might have one extra character or something of that nature. So we see that a lot right now with businesses, to where people are being targeted for wire transfers and things of that nature to move money. And again, just using common sense principles will really help safeguard you with that, because there's misspellings, they're not using the greetings that you're accustomed to, and again, they're putting urgency in that email. So.
Do you have a suggestion as the first step that someone should take to secure their information online? Do you have a single step that they should be taking?
Again, be vigilant. Be aware of the sites that you're frequenting. Know the nature of what you're doing when you're on those sites. If it's financially related, again, have a secure browser like Trusteer, so you're protecting and safeguarding what you're doing, what you're keying in from a password and login perspective. Also, keep your computer up to date. That's just a simple best practice that you can do, from the Windows updates. If you're on a Mac, making sure you're on the latest operating system with that. If you have virus protection, keeping that up to date. Certificates need to always be up to date and everything like that. And then disable file sharing. Make sure you're not opening yourself up to files to be downloaded on your computer without your authorization or permission. It's one quick and easy way. Avoid open Wi-Fi if possible, and just simple best practices like that can really lessen the likelihood of you being compromised. So.
Excellent. Well, all good information, and again, if you do not want to be caught in a cyber plot, just remember the tips that Chris has provided today. Strong passwords, be cautious of opening links inside of emails, cautious of open Wi-Fi, and that'll help protect you from possible targeted attacks. That is all the time we have for our segment today. Once again, I do want to thank our special guest, Mr. Chris Davis, our TB&T MyWay Service Center Manager, for joining us and for sharing a little bit of his knowledge on how we can all protect ourselves from being caught in a cyber plot. Be sure to check back with us next time for another edition of Between the T's, as we explore ways to help you take control of your financial world. Until then, remember always that knowledge is power when it's shared between the T's. I'm Karen Partee. Thanks for watching.